So it's been a weird year for college football in general. I haven't done an in-depth analysis on college football because the SEC has been mostly down. The Big Ten has been mostly down. Of course, you have your Ohio States, your Indianas, who nobody thought going into the year they'd be number two in the country. You have your Alabamas, you have your Georgias, you have your Ole Misses, you have your Texas A&Ms. But nobody outside of Ohio State, in my opinion, and they haven't even played a team within the top 20 at this point currently in the season. Even though, of course, Texas was ranked number one coming into the year, we know that was a wrong projection. They play Penn State this week. We know what fell off to them. And Penn State and LSU were two of the two teams that coming into the year had very high expectations. Penn State, a lot of people, including myself, thought with Drew Adler, this was the most senior experience Penn State football ball club that if James Franklin was going to get over the hump, this was the chance. And many people felt the same way about Nussenberger at LSU. And Brian Kelly in LSU, it was a weird fit. He left Notre Dame on weird terms. Notre Dame has always been a very good school. He never really got them over the hump. And worse comes to worse, Marcus Freeman, 2 years after Brian Kelly leaves, takes Notre Dame by hook or by crook to the national championship, whether it's schedule, injuries, whatever it may have you. And now, of course, they have this car playing quarterback, and even though they had their struggles early in the year, Notre Dame is still in good position to make the college football playoff. We're over at LSU. Brian Kelly and LSU have severely disappointed. Brian Kelly has not been as good as Ed Orgeron was when Joe Burrow and that team won the national championship, or even Les Miles when those teams had national championship contending teams. Brian Kelly has never even came close, and I could be wrong on this. I don't think he's ever even made the college football playoff at LSU. And it's been 3 years of complete disaster. He never really fit at LSU, right? Brian Kelly is sort of a hard nosed, I would say sort of Northeast, Midwest tough football coach. He's a grinder. We're at LSU. They may have high expectations, right? Um, they're a very good program. They've been very good, even though they've been behind Alabama and Georgia now for a few years. But they also have that Southern to them, that hospitality. And again, even though they've had good players over the years, outside of Joe Burrow, they've never really had that guy at quarterback. They have mostly been a wide receiver university, which even the guys like Brian Thomas and guys like that have come into the league, LSU still has good players. They just have never felt as dominant as they were in those Ed Ogeron and Wes Miles years as they were with Brian Kelly. And again, Brian Kelly trying to do the fake Southern accent early on, it just got off to a bad start and it never really felt like a good fit. I think LSU was trying to make a splash. They made a mistake. And at this point now they own it. And they've seen what Alabama's done, moving on from Nick Saban and with Kalen DeVore, right? It was a little bit rocky. They barely missed the CFP last year with Jalen Milroe, their starting quarterback, but now with Ty Simpson, they're a top four team in the country. They should easily make the college football playoff. And a lot of people think that Simpson kid could go number one overall in the 2026 NFL draft. LSU sort of needs a little bit of a culture reset because Ole Miss is coming. They got a lot of good players. Texas A&M, they're always in it every single year. Vanderbilt now with Diego Pavia and the NIL program and what they're doing to become a legitimate program. And Brian Kelly was always a good recruiter. He was never a great recruiter, and you need to be a great recruiter now at LSU, or you just need it for a lot more money. So, maybe Brian Kelly finds his way back to college football. I still think there is a place for him in the game. I don't see him necessarily as a coordinator. I could see him potentially working in the NFL, but he does feel like more of a college guy to me. There's speculation out there that maybe James Franklin goes from Penn State to LSU. What if Brian Kelly goes from LSU to Penn State? And these two coaches that were fired essentially do a swap. Now, I don't know how James Franklin would do at LSU because, again, he couldn't win the big one against Alabama and those guys when he was at Penn State. Same thing with Brian Kelly. I feel like he would not be on the level of a Dan Lanning at Oregon or even a Kurt Sendetti now at Indiana or Ryan Day at Ohio State. I don't feel like that would be a good fit for him. I think if there's an opening in the Big 12, I think that's a good fit for Brian Kelly. Brian's more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy. There's no denying that he can call plays and he can win games. Maybe if something were to go south with Deion Sanders at Colorado, that's a place for Brian Kelly, I think. Or even the Pac-12. I just don't think he's as good enough as a coach to go up against SEC and Big Ten opponents constantly and win. He was a big name, big ire. It never worked out from the original Southern twang and everything that happened with LSU. But at the end of the day, this is potentially a new era for LSU. Again, just have not felt like that big program ever since Ed Orgeron walked out the door. Since that 2019 Joe Burrow team won the national championship, let's be honest, LSU has not been the same team. Like that clip from the Branchworth podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Branchworth podcast right here on YouTube.